think you know all the airport tricks? Most travelers think they do, but the truth is, there are hidden hacks airlines would rather you never discover. Because the less you know, the more they profit. Imagine skipping long security lines, landing a better seat without paying extra, dodging baggage fees, and even paying less than the person sitting right next to you. All because you know the insider secrets. Sounds impossible? Not if you know where to look. Flying in 2025 has changed, and not every so-called hack you see online actually works. That's why today, we're exposing the real tricks that make flying cheaper, smoother, and a whole lot less stressful. And the very first one, it's a viral trend on TikTok, but it could leave you stranded if you're not careful. Most travelers have seen the TikTok videos where people brag about arriving at the airport ridiculously late and still making their flight. It's called the airport theory, and the idea is simple. Instead of sitting around for hours, you stroll in 15 minutes before boarding, breeze through security, and save yourself time and stress. Sounds amazing, right? But here's the problem. It's mostly a fantasy. Studies and travel reports in 2025 show that the average security wait time at major US airports is around 27 minutes. At some of the busiest hubs, think JFK in New York, LAX in Los Angeles, or O'Hare in Chicago, those wait times can push up to 40 minutes or more during peak hours. That means if you gamble on the airport theory, you're not strolling to your gate. You're sprinting through terminals, panicking as the minutes tick away, and in most cases, watching your flight leave without you. And here's what airlines won't tell you. If you miss your flight because you tried this trick, you're often on your own. Sure, some carriers may rebook you on the next available flight, but many budget airlines won't. They'll just tell you to buy a new ticket, sometimes at an even higher price than your original one. Suddenly, that hack costs you hundreds of dollars and hours of wasted time. Now, don't get me wrong. There are seasoned travelers who know their airport inside and out. They're flying at off-peak times, and they can pull it off. But for the average flyer, the risk far outweighs the reward. And that's exactly why airlines love this myth, because when it backfires, they make more money. So, if the airport theory is a trap, what's the real way to save time at security? Well, there's a lesser-known lane that most travelers walk right past, and it could cut your wait down drastically. And the best part? You don't need to pay extra for it. Most travelers accept security lines as the biggest headache of flying. You shuffle forward, tray by tray, as minutes drag into half an hour or worse. But what if I told you there's a lane most travelers walk right past? One that could save you serious time, and it's not reserved for VIPs. Take London Stansted, for example. Travelers discovered that tucked beside the official fast-track entrance is a hidden lane that's often left completely open. Here's the kicker, you don't need a special pass, a membership, or even to pay the extra fee. It's there, it's legal, and if you know where to look, you can use it. On social media, people have been showing how this little-known path cuts their wait from 40 minutes to 10. Imagine shaving half an hour off your airport grind just by walking a few steps to the right. And it's not just the UK. In the US, some airports have overflow or staff-only lanes that, when lines get long, quietly open to the public. They aren't advertised, and airlines certainly don't highlight them, because they'd rather sell you their premium security packages. But frequent travelers know to keep an eye out, sometimes a discreet sign, sometimes just a security officer waving people into a sideline. Of course, there's a catch. You need to be observant. Walk too fast and you'll miss the opportunity. But once you've used it once, you'll start scanning every airport for similar setups. And when you do, you'll wonder why you ever wasted time standing in line like everyone else. Now, saving 30 minutes at security feels like a win. But what if I told you there's a trick that not only saves you time, but could land you a better seat on your flight without spending a single extra dollar? It's bold, it's risky, and it's gone viral among frequent flyers. Here's a hack that sounds completely backward. Instead of rushing to check in as soon as your flight opens, you actually wait. It's called check-in chicken, and believe it or not, it's giving some travelers better seats. Sometimes even those coveted exit rows or extra legroom spots, without spending an extra dime. Here's how it works. Airlines often hold back certain seats until the last minute. These might be exit rows, bulkhead seats, or simply more desirable spots that they hope passengers will pay to upgrade into. But when those seats don't sell, the system releases them to whoever checks in next. That's where the gamble comes in. If you wait until later, sometimes just a few hours before the flight, you might find yourself snagging a seat that others would have paid an extra $50 or $100 for. The catch? You need nerves of steel, because waiting too long means risking what's left, like being stuck in a middle seat or worse, separated from your group. And if the flight is oversold, you might be among the last people scrambling for whatever's left. That's why travelers call it check-in chicken. You're daring the airline and the clock, hoping to win big before time runs out. But when it works, it feels like striking gold. Imagine paying for the cheapest ticket, then suddenly sitting in a seat with double the legroom because you played your cards right. Travelers have even reported getting surprise upgrades when they checked in late because the system had to assign them somewhere, and all that was left were premium seats. Of course, airlines don't promote this hack, because they'd rather you pay for seat selection up front. But the truth is, sometimes patience pays more than planning. So, if you're willing to play the game, check-in chicken can be your secret weapon. But if gambling with your seat feels too risky, don't worry. There's another trick that hits airlines where it hurts most: baggage fees. And this one might just let you check your bag for free. Baggage fees, probably one of the biggest moneymakers for airlines, and one of the biggest frustrations for travelers. Pay $30 to $60 just to check a bag? It adds up fast. But there's a clever little move some travelers use to get around it, and it happens right at the gate. It's called the gate handoff hack. Here's how it works. You pack a carry-on bag like normal, roll it through security, and walk it straight to the gate. But instead of fighting for overhead bin space, you walk up to the gate agent and ask if they need volunteers to check bags. On crowded flights, especially in 2025 where planes are often fully booked, airlines are desperate for passengers to hand over their carry-ons so boarding goes smoother. And when that happens, they'll check your bag for free, yes, the same bag you would have paid for at the counter. The best part? Sometimes these gate check bags come off first at baggage claim, beating even the priority luggage. You save money, save time, and avoid dragging your bag through crowded aisles. Frequent flyers swear by it, especially on busy routes where overhead space fills up in minutes. Now, it's not foolproof. If your carry-on is oversized or overweight, the airline might weigh or measure it before taking it, and in that case, you could end up stuck with a fee you weren't expecting. But if your bag is within the standard carry-on limits, chances are you'll slip right through and score a free checked bag without spending a cent. And here's the funny part: airlines could easily advertise this option, but they don't. Why? Because if everyone knew, baggage fees would crumble overnight. Instead, it stays a quiet little secret among seasoned travelers. So, if you're tired of baggage fees, keep this hack in your back pocket. But if saving money on bags sounds good, wait until you hear about the ticketing trick that makes even your flight itself cost less, sometimes hundreds less. Now let's talk about one of the most controversial hacks out there, the hidden city trick, also known as skip lagging. This one makes airlines furious because it can save travelers hundreds of dollars, and there's nothing they can do about it. At least not easily. Here's how it works. Sometimes a flight with a layover at your true destination is cheaper than a direct flight to that same city. For example, imagine you want to fly to Chicago. A direct flight costs $350, but a flight to Milwaukee with a layover in Chicago, that one might only cost $200. So you book the Milwaukee ticket, fly the first leg, get off at Chicago, and simply don't board the second flight. Congratulations, you just saved $150 by beating the system. Sounds sneaky, and that's because it is. Airlines hate it, and they've even sued websites like Skiplagged, which help travelers find these deals. They'll warn you about violating their terms of service, and in some cases, they've punished frequent flyers by canceling the rest of their itineraries or even suspending loyalty accounts. But here's the catch: they can't make it illegal. Once you've paid for a ticket, you're not actually required to fly every segment. That's why people keep using it. The risk is real, though. If you check a bag, it'll go all the way to the final destination, not your layover city. That means this trick only works if you're traveling with carry-on luggage. And you need to be discreet. Never brag to the airline staff that you're skip lagging, or you might end up flagged. Still, for budget-conscious travelers, it's one of the most powerful hacks out there. The idea that you can save money by flying more miles is proof of just how broken airline pricing really is. But if this sounds a little too risky for your taste, don't worry. The next hack isn't controversial at all. It's about making boarding smoother, avoiding chaos at the gate, and secretly looking like the most seasoned traveler in the room. If you've flown more than once, you've seen it, the crowd that forms around the gate long before boarding even starts. Travelers pile up, blocking the walkway, hovering like vultures, waiting for their zone to be called. Frequent flyers have a name for this: gate lice. And while it might seem harmless, it actually slows down boarding and makes the whole process more stressful. Here's the secret. The people who look the most experienced at airports are never in that crowd. They stay seated until their zone is called, calmly walk to the gate, and usually get on the plane faster than the ones who lined up 20 minutes early. Why? Because boarding zones exist for a reason. If you crowd the gate too soon, you're not boarding any earlier, you're just making it harder for everyone else to move when it's their turn. Now, here's where the hack comes in. By avoiding the gate lice behavior, you save yourself stress and, believe it or not, you sometimes gain extra space. Flight attendants are trained to speed up the boarding process when passengers move smoothly, which means overhead bins get used more efficiently. You're not fighting through a mob, you're walking onto the plane like you own it. And the impression it leaves? Other passengers and even crew members often treat you differently when you board confidently instead of chaotically. It's one of those unspoken airport hacks. Act like a pro, and the entire experience shifts. No stress, no crowding, no jostling. Just smooth travel. Airlines never mention this because they actually benefit when people crowd the gate. It creates pressure, makes travelers feel rushed, and sometimes pushes them to buy priority boarding. But once you understand it, you'll never line up early again. So now you've learned how to dodge stress at the gate. But what about tying it all together? Let's wrap up with the key takeaways, and one final reason airlines hope you'll never learn these tricks. So, let's recap. The airport theory? A risky myth. Hidden fast-track lanes? They'll shave minutes off security. Check-in chicken? A free shot at a better seat. The gate handoff trick? Say goodbye to baggage fees. Hidden city ticketing? A loophole that slashes flight costs. And skipping the gate lice crowd? The easiest way to board stress-free. These aren't just random tips, they're power moves. And every time you use one, you're taking money and control away from the airlines and putting it right back in your pocket. Now you're flying smarter, faster, and cheaper than almost everyone around you. And here's the best part. This is just the beginning. There are even deeper hacks buried in airline rules that can completely change the way you travel. So stay curious, hit subscribe, and get ready, because the next video is packed with the secrets airlines really don't want you to know.